Tom lived alone on a small farm at the edge of a quiet town. He had no family left, only his dog Max and a few chickens. Every morning, he worked in the fields. Every night, he sat on his porch and watched the stars. He liked peace. He liked silence. One evening, just after sunset, Tom saw something strange in the sky. A bright light moved fast across the clouds. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a shooting star. It was something else. The light grew bigger and louder. Then it crashed in the forest not far from his land. The ground shook a little. Max barked loudly and ran in circles. Tom grabbed his flashlight, called Max, and walked toward the forest. The air smelled like fire and smoke. Trees were broken. Leaves were burning. In the middle of the wreckage, a strange ship was half buried in the dirt. It was silver and shaped like a smooth triangle. Steam hissed from its sides. Tom moved closer. A part of the ship opened with a soft hiss. A tall figure stepped out. It was not human. The creature was nearly 7 feet tall. Its skin was pale gray with a soft glow. Its face was long, but not scary. It wore a tight black suit. It looked hurt. It stumbled and fell to one knee. Blood, dark blue like ink, dripped from its shoulder. Tom stood still. Max growled but didn't attack. The alien looked up at Tom and said something in a strange language. Then it switched to English, slow and broken. Please, help. I mean no harm. Tom did not speak. He looked into the alien's eyes. They were full of pain, but also trust. I'm Griv, the alien said. I crash, bad damage, no time. I need shelter. Tom had never seen anything like this before, but something in his heart told him this creature was not dangerous. He nodded. Come with me. Tom said, but stay quiet. Griv tried to stand but fell again. Tom walked over, took Griv's arm, and helped him up. Max stayed close, but calmed out. It was a slow walk back to the farmhouse. Tom brought Griv inside and laid him on the couch. He closed the windows and locked the door. Griv's suit was torn. There was a deep cut on his side. Tom cleaned the wound as best he could. He used his first aid kit and wrapped it with clean cloth. Griv watched him. You helped me, Griv said. Why? Tom gave a simple answer. Because you needed it, Griv smiled. Just a little. That night, Tom stayed awake, watching over his guest. Griv slept like a rock, breathing slow and deep. Max curled beside the couch, eyes half open. Over the next few days, Griv stayed hidden in the farmhouse. He was weak but healing fast. Tom gave him food, water, and warm clothes. They talked a little each day. Griv told Tom that he was not from a war race. He was a traveler. He had been chased by enemies and forced to land here. His ship was broken beyond repair. One evening, while watching the stars together, Griv spoke in a calm voice. I remember the night sky of my world, but your sky is quiet, peaceful. Tom nodded. That's why I live here, far from noise. Griv looked at him. You are a kind man. Not many like you left, even among my kind. Tom shrugged. I just do what feels right. Griv turned serious. Tom, listen to me. I will not forget this. You saved my life. One day, I will return this gift. I promise. When that day comes, you must accept what I offer, no matter how strange. Tom looked at him with a small frown. What does that mean? Griv only said, you will know. The next morning, Griv stood near the edge of the forest. He was ready to leave. His wounds were mostly healed. He carried a small device and pressed a button. A low hum filled the air. A rescue signal. He said, it will take me home. Tom walked with him to the ship's remains. Will anyone else come looking for you? Tom asked. No. Griv said, I erased the path. You are safe. Before he left, Griv turned to Tom. You gave me shelter. You treated me like a brother. I cannot repay that today. But one day, when your life is quiet again, I will return. I will bring something important. Tom gave a small smile. I'll keep the door unlocked. Griv nodded once and stepped into the light. A beam of blue light lifted him into the sky. Then he was gone. The forest was quiet again. Tom returned to his farmhouse. Max followed. Tail wagging, the strange ship slowly crumbled to ash. By morning, Only burnt leaves remained. Days passed, then weeks. Life returned to normal. Tom worked in his fields. He watched the sky each night. Sometimes he wondered if he had dreamed the whole thing. But deep inside, he knew. It was real. And one day, the stars would bring something back to him. 10 years had passed since that strange night when the alien named Griv had crashed in the forest. Behind Tom's farm, Tom was older now. His hair had turned more gray, and his hands had become rough from years of work, but he still lived the same quiet life. Max the dog had grown slow and lazy, spending most of his time resting under the shade of the old porch tree. The town had changed a little. A few new houses had been built, a small store had opened near the highway, but Tom's life stayed simple. He woke up early, fed the chickens, worked in the fields, and watched the stars at night. Just like always, sometimes while staring at the night sky, he would remember Griv, the tall gray alien, with the calm voice and sad eyes. The promise he made still echoed in Tom's mind, though he had never truly believed it until one quiet evening. Everything changed again. The sky was clear and filled with stars. Tom sat on his wooden chair with a warm cup of tea. Max lay beside him, half asleep. Suddenly, a strange humming filled the air. It was soft at first, but grew louder. Then a bright light appeared above the forest. It moved slowly, but with purpose. A shape formed behind the light. It was a ship. Not like Griv's broken one, this one was smoother, cleaner, and more alive. Tom stood quickly. Max barked once, then stayed close to the side. The ship hovered over the trees, then gently landed in the same place where Griv had crashed so many years ago. Tom's heart beat faster. He grabbed a flashlight and walked carefully toward the light. The forest was quiet, but the air felt heavy. As he reached the clearing, he saw the ship's door open slowly. A ramp lowered with a soft sound. 3 figures appeared. The first was Griv, but something was wrong. He was thinner and walked slowly as if in pain. His skin looked dull and his eyes were tired. He was holding the hand of a small girl who looked no older than 8. She had soft gray skin like him, but her eyes were bright and curious. She held a small glowing toy in her other hand and looked around with wonder. Behind them stood a woman. She was tall and graceful. Her face was calm but strong. Her long silver hair fell over her shoulders. She wore a long cloak and carried a small bag. Tom stared. In shock, Griv stepped forward and spoke in a quiet voice. Tom, my friend, I came back as I promised. Tom nodded, but said nothing. Griv looked weaker. Then he remembered. I don't have much time, Griv said. I have been hunted for many years. They found me again. I can't run anymore. Tom looked at the woman and the girl. Griv turned to them, then looked back at Tom. This is Mira, my wife, and this is Luma, my daughter. Mira bowed her head slightly. Luma gave a small wave but stayed close to her mother. Griv's voice grew softer. You saved my life. I made a promise to repay you. I cannot return to my world. It is not safe for them there, but here they can live in peace. If you will have them, I leave them in your care. Tom's eyes widened. You're giving me your family? Griv nodded slowly. You gave me hope when I had nothing. I have no other choice, no other friend, no safe place for them. They will be safe with you. Tom looked at Mira. Her eyes were sad but calm. She stepped forward. I will not be a burden, she said. I will work. I will help. Just give Luma a safe life. Tom looked at the girl. Her eyes met his. She did not speak, but something in her gaze felt warm, like she already trusted him. Griv took a small object from his pocket. It looked like a stone, but glowed with a soft light. He pressed it into Tom's hand. This holds our family record. It will help you understand our customs and language. If anything happens, use it. Tom took a deep breath and nodded. They can stay. Griv smiled. It was weak but full of peace. He knelt and hugged his daughter. Luma whispered something in their own language. He kissed her forehead, then stood, looked at Mira, and touched her cheek gently. Then he turned to Tom again. Thank you, my friend. You have saved us once more. He walked back into the ship. The ramp closed behind him. Slowly the ship rose into the sky. Tom watched until the light disappeared among the stars. Then he looked down at the 2 new lives standing in his world. Myra looked around. Your home is beautiful. We will not cause trouble. Tom gave a small smile. It's not much, but it's safe. Come on, I'll show you inside. They walked back through the forest to the farmhouse. Max sniffed Luma, but did not bark. She laughed softly and patted his head. Max wagged his tail and followed her closely inside the house. Tom gave them the guest room. Mira placed her bag on the floor and helped Luma sit on the bed. The girl looked tired but happy. Tom stood at the door, unsure of what to say. I'll bring food you need. Rest. Mira nodded. Thank you, Tom. I know this is not easy. Tom shook his head. A promise is a promise. That night he sat on the porch again. Max lay by his feet. The stars shined above just as they always did. But now something had changed. This house was no longer empty, and the promise from 10 years ago had been kept in a way he never imagined. The first few days with Mira and Luma were quiet but strange. Tom was used to silence. He had lived alone for many years. Now there were footsteps in the hallway, voices in the kitchen, and laughter in the yard. He didn't mind it, but it felt new. Mira woke up early and helped with the house chores. She washed clothes, cleaned the floor, and even fixed a broken window without using any tools. Her hands moved in a smooth way, and small sparks of energy came from her fingers. When Tom asked how she did that, she only said a little Theron skill, and smiled. Luma followed Tom everywhere. She was curious about everything. She touched the trees, ran through the cornfields, and stared at the birds in the sky. One afternoon she pointed at the old scarecrow and asked, "Is that your protector?" Tom laughed for the first time in weeks. "Not really, it's just to scare away the crows." Luma tilted her head. "Do crows attack your home?" "No," Tom replied. "They eat the crops." Luma nodded as if learning something very important each night. They ate dinner together at the small wooden table. Mira cooked strange but tasty meals using herbs from her bag mixed with food from Tom's kitchen. The food glowed a little, but it made them feel strong, and Countum learned that Mira once lived in a high city floating above a blue sea. She had been a healer and teacher. Griv was her protector, sent to guard her from enemies who wanted to harm her people. They had fallen in love during the war and married in secret. When Luma was born, they escaped to stay safe. Tom listened carefully to Mira's words. Her voice was soft but full of strength. She carried sadness in her heart, but also hope. Luma sometimes spoke in her native tongue, but she picked up English quickly. She loved to listen to Tom's stories about earth animals, thunderstorms, and tractors. She liked riding with him on the old cart and often asked to steer, even though she was to smile all day while working in the garden. Tom saw Mira standing still looking at the sky. Her face was tense. "What's wrong?" Tom asked. "I felt something," she said. "A signal from the stars, but it passed quickly. Maybe it was nothing." Tom didn't like the sound of that. He remembered Griv's last words about being hunted, but he said nothing. He didn't want to worry Luma. Later that night, after Luma had gone to sleep, Tom sat with Mira on the porch. The stars were bright and the wind was soft. "Do you think they'll come looking for her?" Tom asked. Mira didn't answer for a moment. Then she said, "She carries her father's blood and mine. That makes her important to some people, dangerous to others." Tom looked at the small light in Luma's bedroom window. "I'll protect her," he said quietly. Mira turned to him. "You've already done more than I ever expected, Tom. You gave us shelter, a chance at peace. That's more than most humans would have done." Tom shrugged. "I'm not like most people." Mira smiled. It was the first full smile he had seen on her face. It was soft and bright like morning light. "I know," she said. Next morning brought more normal tasks. Tom fixed the barn door, Mira fed the chickens, and Luma chased butterflies around the yard. But life was not completely normal. One afternoon, a man from town named Bill came to visit. He was an old friend of Tom's and often brought supplies from the store. When he saw Mira in the yard, he stopped and stared. "She's not from around here, is she?" he asked. "No," Tom said simply. "She's from far away." Bill narrowed his eyes. "She looks different. Her eyes are too bright. And that hair." Tom stood firm. "She's my cousin's wife. They moved here for peace and quiet." "That's all." Bill nodded slowly, but his eyes showed doubt. After Bill left, Mira looked at Tom. "I don't want to bring trouble to your town." "You're not," Tom said. "People talk. That's normal. But I'll take care of it." Luma walked up and took Tom's hand. "Are we in danger again?" Tom knelt down and looked into her eyes. "Not now. Not here. You're safe with me always." She hugged him tight without saying a word. That night, while Mira read stories to Luma in their room, Tom sat by the fire thinking. He had taken into lives from another world. He had lied to protect them. He had stood between them and a world that might not understand the man, yet he felt no regret for. The first time in many years his house felt full. There was life in the halls, warmth in the kitchen, and laughter in the air. The farm was no longer just a place of quiet work. It had become something more, a home. Later, Mira came to sit near the fire. She brought a small box and opened it. Inside were glowing stones, pictures, and a folded cloth with symbols. "What's that?" Tom asked. "Our memory box," she said. "Each Theron family keeps one. Would you like to see our story?" Tom nodded and listened as Mira showed him each item. A stone from her childhood like a thread from her wedding robe. A photo of Luma as a baby holding her father's hand. Mira looked at Tom. "Now our story includes you." Tom looked at the glowing stone in his hand. "Then I'll keep it safe." All of it. They sat together in silence as the fire burned low and the night grew calm. The stars above were wide and deep, but inside the small house, 3 lives were slowly becoming one. Tom woke early as usual. The sun had just touched the tops of the trees. He stepped outside to feel the morning air. Mira was already in the garden. Luma was picking flowers and talking to Max. It had been a full month since Griv's ship had returned. Since then, life had found a rhythm. Mira helped in the kitchen and garden. Luma explored the land and learned about Earth's plants and animals. Tom repaired the old barn, cleaned the tools, and kept busy, but something had started to feel different. It was small at first. Tom began to notice strange sounds at night, a soft hum in the air, a flicker of light near the woods. The animals became restless. The chickens clucked louder. The dog growled at Shadowshin. One night, Mira stood by the window long after everyone had gone to bed. Her eyes stayed fixed on the stars. Tom came down the stairs and saw her in the dark. "Can't sleep?" he asked gently. She nodded slowly. "I felt something again, a pulse from the sky, a call, not from Griv's people. This one is colder, sharper." Tom stepped beside her and looked out into the night. "What does it mean?" "They're searching," Mira said, "and they're getting closer." Tom took a deep breath. "Then we prepare." From the next day, Tom began to work differently. He checked the fences, fixed the hidden gates, and made sure the back roads were blocked. He reopened the storm cellar below the house and cleared it. He built small hiding places in the woods and tested the strength of the barn. Dursmeyer saw what he was doing and joined him. Together they dug a tunnel from the house to the old storage shed at the far edge of the field. They used quiet tools and worked late at night. While Luma slept, Luma noticed something was wrong. She stopped smiling so much she stayed closer to her mother and spoke. "Lasoni evening." She looked up at Tom and asked, "Are the bad ones coming?" Tom knelt and answered her honestly, "Maybe, but we'll be ready." "We're not alone this time." She hugged him tightly without speaking. That night, Mira showed Tom a strange device from her bag. It looked like a round stone, but had moving lights on its surface. "This is a Theron shield crystal," she said. "It can hide this house from their scanners for a short time, a few hours maybe." Tom studied the device. "That's enough time to move or fight if needed." Mira nodded. "I hope we won't need it, but hope is not a plan." Luma began learning to Mira taught her how to stay quiet, how to move without sound, and how to read signs in the air. Tom showed her where the tunnels were and how to use the small escape map hidden under her. But every day became a lesson. Every hour was a chance to prepare, but life still went on. They still ate together, still laughed when Luma said something funny, still sat on the porch in the evenings, pretending all was normal. Then it happened at night while Tom sat outside looking at the stars. A strange sound filled the air, not loud but clear, a soft beep, then silence, then another beep. Closer to him stood and looked toward the forest. A red light blinked between the trees for just a moment, then vanished. Max growled low from the porch steps and went inside, locked the doors, and turned off all the lights. Myra was already holding Luma closed. Her eyes told Tom everything. He nodded and handed her the bag with the crystal. They went down into the storm cellar and waited. Minutes passed slowly. Then the ground trembled. A soft hum rolled through the walls. Something was above them. Tom peeked through the hidden tunnel camera. He saw a ship land silently in the far field. It was dark black with sharp edges and no lights. Several figures stepped out, tall, thin, wearing dark suits. Their faces were covered with glass masks. Their movements were smooth like machinists. They carried long metal sticks with blue lights at the tip. Tom whispered, "They're here." Mira held Luma tighter and activated the shield crystal. A soft blue glow spread across the walls, then vanished. The device went silent. Above them the house was quiet. The hunters scanned the area slowly. They walked in lines, moved without sound, and pointed their sticks at the ground. Then at the tree's own figure walked to the porch and stood there. It looked at the house for a long time, then turned and walked back to the group. They waited. Then finally the figures returned to the ship. It lifted quietly and disappeared into the clouds. Waited 30 more minutes before opening the cellar door. Everything looked the same, but something in the air had changed. They had not been found this time, but they had been close to close. Myra sat beside the fireplace that night holding the shield crystal, which had gone dim. It needs time to charge again, she said. We cannot use it twice in 1 week. Tom stood by the window, eyes fixed on the forest. They'll come again next time. They'll come faster and harder. Myra nodded. We need more than tunnels and tricks, Tom agreed. The next morning, he took Myra to the barn. He opened a locked box hidden behind the old tractor. Inside were old hunting rifles, boxes of bullets, and laser tools he had fixed from Griv's crashed ship. Years ago. Myra looked at the weapons and placed her hand on one of the laser tools. This will help, but we must not let Luma fight. She must stay a child as long as she can. Tom nodded. She'll have a future even if we have to fight for it. Outside, the sun was rising over the field. The air was quiet, but the peace was thin. Luma ran toward them holding a flower in her hand. Her smile returned for a moment, and she placed the flower in Myra's hair and watched them, and knew what he had to protect was no soldier, no hero, just a farmer. But now he was something more. It was a guardian, and this land was no longer just his home. It was their sanctuary, and he would defend it with everything he had. The night was dark and still. Tom sat by the window, watching the stars. He felt a deep calm, but also a sharp tension. Myra and Luma were inside, sleeping quietly. The house was peaceful, but Tom knew the quiet was only before a storm. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, a soft hum, then a light flashing in the forest. Tom grabbed the rifle he had prepared and moved outside. Max growled low and stayed close to his side. From the shadows came the hunter's doll, dark figures wearing black suits and glass masks. Their steps were silent. They carried weapons that glowed blue. They moved carefully, but with clear purpose. Tom stood firm in front of his house. He lifted the rifle and aimed it at the nearest figure. You will not take them, Tom said clearly, his voice strong and steady. Not without a fight. The hunter stopped, one step forward. Its voice was calm but cold. We only want the girl. She belongs to us. Tom's eyes narrowed. She belongs here, with us. Behind him, the door opened slowly. Myra appeared, holding a small device that glowed softly. Luma stayed close behind her, watching with wide eyes. Myra raised the device. A blue shield formed around the house, shimmering like glass. The hunters fired their weapons, but the shots bounced off the shield harmlessly. Tom fired his rifle at one of the hunters. The figure stumbled but did not fall. They were strong and fast. The fight had begun. Tom ducked behind a tree and fired again. Myra moved beside him, holding a laser tool that shot thin beams of light. They worked as a team, careful and precise. Luma stayed hidden in the house, listening to the sounds of battle. She felt scared, but also brave. Her mother was fighting for her. Tom was fighting for them both. The hunters regrouped and tried to surround the house. Tom set traps he had built around the farm. One hunter stepped on a wire, triggering a net that lifted him into the air. Another was caught in a pit covered with leaves, but there were too many of them. One hunter broke through the shield and aimed its weapon at Myra. Tom fired just in time, hitting the hunter's arm. The beam fell to the ground. Myra took the chance to throw a small grenade that released a bright light and a loud sound. The hunters were blinded and confused. Run, Tom shouted. Myra grabbed Luma's hand and ran toward the tunnel entrance. Tom followed, firing at the hunters who tried to chase them. Inside the tunnel, they moved quickly through the narrow path. The shield outside faded and disappeared. When they reached the storage shed at the edge of the field, Tom locked the door. Behind them, they were safe for now. Tom looked at Myra. Are you hurt? She shook her head. A little tired, but I'm okay. Luma smiled shyly. Did you see? We won. Tom nodded. Yes, but they will come back. Myra sat down and took a deep breath. We must be ready next time. Stronger. Tom agreed. We will protect our family, no matter what. The next day, Tom worked on fixing the barn and making more traps. Myra helped him. Luma stayed close, learning how to listen for danger and stay quiet. Tom could see the strength growing in both of them. Myra's calm wisdom and Luma's quick mind gave him hope. At night, they sat together and talked about the future. Mira said, "One day, Luma will be a leader. She will help bring peace between worlds." Tom smiled. "She is strong. She has your courage in her father's heart." Luma looked at Tom. "I want to be brave like you." Tom laughed softly. "You already are." The fight had changed their lives forever. Tom was no longer just a farmer. He was a guardian, a protector, a father. And no matter what came next, he would stand by his family. Because some promises were worth more than life itself. After the fight, the days grew quieter, but the tension stayed. Tom's body still ached from the battle, and Mira used her alien medicine to help him heal. The medicine glowed softly and smelled like fresh herbs. Tom felt stronger with each day. Mira sat by his side as he rested. She looked at him with a softness that touched his heart. "You saved us all," she said quietly. "Without you, Luma and I would be lost." Tom smiled weakly. "I did what any friend would do." Mira shook her head. "You are more than a friend. You are family." Tom looked at Luma playing in the yard, chasing butterflies and laughing like a child should. She was happy again, and that gave him hope. One afternoon, Mira invited Tom to sit with her in the kitchen. She had something important to tell him. "Tom," she began, "I want you to know the truth about Griv." Tom's eyes grew serious. "I want to hear it." Mira took a deep breath. "Griv was not just a traveler. He was a prince in my world, from a royal family that rules the planet Thara." Tom was surprised but stayed quiet. "The war made it dangerous for us. Our enemies hunted Griv because of his bloodline. When he crashed here, he escaped them. But he knew they would never stop searching." Tom looked at her closely. "That's why he left you and Luma here." "Yes," Mira said, "because Earth is far from their reach. But it is also far from safety." Tom nodded slowly. "Then we must make this place safe. For all of you." Mira smiled. "You already have." Days passed, and Luma learned more about her heritage. Mira taught her stories of Thara, of great cities in the sky, of oceans that glowed at night, and of stars that held magic. Luma listened with wide eyes. She dreamed of visiting that world one day, but also knew her place was here, with Tom and Mira. One evening, Tom and Mira sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Do you ever want to go back?" Tom asked gently. Mira looked at the fading light. "Sometimes, but not now. This world is home now. With you." Tom reached out and took her hand. It felt warm and real. "You never had to ask," he said. Luma ran out from the house and jumped into Tom's arms. "Tell me a story, Uncle Tom." Tom laughed and began to tell tales of earth animals and faraway lands. Mira listened, smiling at the scene. In that moment, the three of them felt like a real family. They were no longer strangers. From different worlds, they were bound by something deeper than blood, a bond of trust, love, and hope. Years passed since that night when Griv had returned for the last time. Tom's small farm had changed a lot. It was no longer just a place of quiet work and loneliness. It had become a home filled with life, hope, and new dreams. Luma was no longer a small girl. She had grown tall and strong. Her eyes still held the bright light of her Theran heritage, but her smile was warm like any Earth child's. She learned fast and dreamed even faster. Mira and Tom worked together every day to make their land safe and welcoming. They built fences and small homes where other alien refugees could live quietly, hidden from danger. Tom's farm became a secret sanctuary for those who had no place else to go. The neighbors still whispered about the strange family on the edge of town, but no one dared to bother them. Tom had earned their respect with kindness and courage. One clear night, Luma stood outside looking at the stars. Her hands were folded, and her face was full of wonder. Tom joined her and asked softly, "What are you thinking about, Luma?" She smiled. "I'm thinking about the stars, Uncle Tom, about my father's world, about the future. I want to help people from both worlds live in peace." Tom looked up at the sky and nodded. "That is a good dream." Luma turned to him with hope in her eyes. "Will you help me?" Tom laughed. "I will always help you. You are family." Mira came outside, holding a small glowing flower. She gave it to Luma. "This is a gift from Thora, a symbol of new beginnings." Luma took it carefully and said, "Thank you, Mother." Tom watched the three of them, Mira, Luma, and himself, and felt a deep pride. His promise to Griv had changed his life. It had given him a new family and a new purpose. He thought about the battles they had faced and the love that had grown in the quiet farm. He knew the future would still have challenges, but together they could face anything. As the night wind whispered through the trees, Tom whispered too. Helping someone in need, that is what makes us human. And under the stars, on a small farm far from the noise of the world, a new story was beginning. A story of hope, a story of family, a story of peace. The end.